Good morning, mga katribo. Good morning, Chito. And good morning to our guest. We'll introduce him later. It's Wednesday, 9 August. Welcome to another episode of Straight Talk, where we discuss important matters to each of us. This is Gigie Arcilla.
And good morning, Gigie. I am Chito Lozada. We are live on Daily Tribune's Facebook page and YouTube now. Tribune now on YouTube.
In this morning's episode, we are joined by the Commissioner of Securities and Exchange Commission, Attorney Kelvin Lee.
Kelvin, good morning.
Good morning,
Hi,
Commissioner.
thank you for having me, Ma'am Gigie and Sir Chito. Happy to be here.
Yes, it's an honor. So, we fire away. So,
Please.
Yeah.
Yes. So for our viewers, what is SEC? What is the Securities and Exchange Commission, and what is its role in regulating and supervising the Philippine securities market?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Ma'am Gigie. Siguro to contextualize, just so we're aware, the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, is essentially the entity that is tasked to regulate the capital markets, the securities market. So anytime someone wants to do an IPO, someone wants to issue a bond, they have to go through us and file a registration statement in accordance with Section 8 ng Securities Regulation Code, because no security or investment can be offered to the public without without the appropriate filing and approval of a registration statement. But we're unique, the Philippine SEC is unique in the world because we have a twofold function. No? Most people know the SEC more as the incorporation side. If you want to create a new company, you want to do business in the Philippines, you incorporate with the SEC. So company registered din po kami. So twofold function: the company registration process, function, and the securities regulator function. So we're likely more well known for the second function naman po, no? The company registration function. But in any case, that's the job, and that we are unique in the sense, I think we're one of the last few government institutions that does that, no, in the world. Most other government institutions have divided the functions kasi among different government agencies.
So it's more on
So SEC is an agency attached to the Department of Finance,
Yes,
right?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Apa.
So how long has SEC been?
We're 87 years old this year. We will be 88 next year in 2024. Now, we've been around a fair amount of time. In fact, interestingly enough, we're one of the older securities regulators in the world.
In the world.
Kasi our original SEC law, no, the Securities Registration Act, was based on the US SEC. No, so the US SEC came about in 1930s yata, 1940s. We came about shortly after. If you recall, the US SEC was created with the first chairman being the father of President JFK, President Kennedy. So around that time, and then shortly after, because at the time we were very connected to America po, we then emulated that law. No? Siyempre, the law has changed since then. No? Nadagdag po nga yung company registration processing functions dito sa atin. But we are one of the longest existing securities regulators in the world.
Shit, siguro we ask the Commissioner. Kasi speaking of company registration, kasi medyo baka confusing I mean to some of our viewers, meron kasi na kailangan sa DTI ni-register. What's the difference between company or business being registered with SEC and with that of DTI?
Yeah. Sige, if you don't mind, no? I'll just quickly ano that. So sa amin would be the corporations. The corporations and the partnerships, no? So these are the ones that are by law are given to us. Corporations are entities that have limited liability, which I think most of us want because there's protection for the original investor. As versus DTI, single proprietorship po yun. When you talk about single proprietorship, that's one of those entities that very simple ang creation yan. Pero ang mangyayari is that if ever there's any liabilities that pop up, the liabilities go straight to the single proprietor. So wala ka masyadong protection there. However, a lot of people prefer it because it's simpler. However, most lawyers do not recommend it precisely because, I'm sorry, a lawyer, no? So pasensya na po. Most lawyers don't really recommend it because there's liability. Whatever liabilities or whatever issues pop up, for instance, may utang yung single proprietorship mo, it will also redound to the person who runs the single proprietorship. Medyo ayaw mo yun. Gusto mo ng protection. Kaya nga nag-incorporate ka dapat. I'd like to point out pala, Ma'am Gigi, we have something called the OPC pala now, no? The one-person corporation. So, whereas before kasi, ang advantage ng single proprietorship, isang tao, you can already conduct business. And before, you needed minimum of 5 people to create a corporation. Now, under the revised corporation code, came out in 2019, OPC, the one-person corporation, isang tao lang can create a corporation already. Siyempre, papasok po yung mga requirements, no? Meaning the yearly reportorial requirements, but ano kasi the limited liability aspect of it is a big advantage. I would foresee yung OPC is still a better option talaga.
Okay.
So that falls under SEC.
Sa amin pa rin po. Yung the only thing remaining talaga sa DTI is the single proprietorship. A few years ago, I was actually in talks with the DTI about possibly trying to see how we could transfer the single proprietorship nga sa SEC. Para lahat ng functions of company formation, initial businesses, would be with the SEC. But turns out there are legal ramifications kasi by law yung mandate nila, by law din sa amin. So we couldn't quite make it work out. But it was something we were exploring because at the time, DTI leadership was also aware of the incongruousness of having one particular entity na sa kanila and then everything else na sa amin ang regulation. So we are aware naman government is trying to sort that out din naman before.
So that's not going to be in the near future.
It's a law thing eh. It turns out we have to amend multiple laws to make it happen.
Alright.
So but we do coordinate closely, no? I speak regularly to si ASEC Jean Pacheco for instance ng DTI on these topics. So palagi naman kaming
Doon sa regulation function ng SEC, do you think na mas kailangan pa ng
more powers?
More powers na kasi parang compared with the American SEC, US SEC, mas mahigpit eh.
Well, to be honest, no government agency would not want additional powers, diba? Given po yun eh. But siguro give us a little time because there's something that just came out now, yung Financial Consumer Protection Act. It came out mga late last year. We came out with the IRR for that this year along with the BSP. Yung Financial Consumer Protection Act is interesting because it gives all financial regulators more teeth. Mas malakas na po kami to be able to go after those who are operating without authority, no, and who would choose to affect yung mga consumers nga, yung mga financial consumers. So that refers to mga yung mga investment scams na naman, yung mga ganon. But we need a little time lang to sort it out kasi the implementing rules namin lumabas lang po I think a month ago lang eh. No, a month or so ago lang. So we're still in the process of implementing it and then having the general population digest it. No, because there are certain functions there that gives us more teeth. For instance, the clawback provision. In theory, we have the power to disgorge na, no? Meaning kung may investment scam, there's a certain amount that we can order na i-release instead of going to the court. Ibalik sa investor. So may ganun po na kami na powers, but we're still sorting out nga the implementation. Medyo challenging din kasi po yan. The logistics of that are very hard, no? But certainly, I get what you're saying. Na sometimes there might be a need for more powers to be as higpit as other jurisdictions. In fairness, we have been fairly mahigpit. No? For instance, we have like a 36 convictions, no, in different criminal cases over the last 3 years yata, since 2019, 2020.
Yan yung mga investments.
Now, for investment scams among others. So medyo not bad na rin naman. I mean, it's not as big a number as we would like, but of course there's a process we have to go through with the courts, no? And then syempre the evidence gathering may takes a little time then. But I'm happy to say that we have a fairly good conviction rate. No, once we start prosecuting po talaga, our enforcement department is very active po eh.
So I'm just curious, Chito and Commissioner, how many corporations are registered with SEC right now?
We are cleaning that up, no? Actually, we have over 1 million corporations, but yung talagang active, we're running around the 600, 700,000, maybe less nga eh. So we're currently trying to clean that up. Part of our digitalization initiatives that the chair and the commissioners have been pushing for the last couple of years is to clean up our database because that makes it challenging, of course, na you have so many companies that you're not sure if they're existing or not, no, or still operating. That's actually one of the reasons why we have an amnesty right now, meaning companies can come to us kung meron silang kahit konting issues, no, for reportorial requirements, they can come and clean up with us, no, through that amnesty process. By doing that, we are able to determine whether or not these set of companies are still existing. Kasi marami dyan, people created companies years ago, tapos hinayaan lang po nila, they don't use it, they don't file the proper requirements. So nangyayari, may mga penalties that add up. So some people just choose not to do anything about it, and then we're forced to suspend or revoke. And per marami nga, di ba?
And then create a new one.
And some even just create a new one. So we're hoping with the amnesty, we're able to, it'll be part of our cleanup efforts to try and make sure we're clear na on anong company nandyan, anong company existing, anong company talagang wala na suspend or revoke na talaga. No? So I guess to answer the question exactly, there's a lot. Ganun na lang.
So,
there's a lot. Don't forget, we have been around a while.
Oo.
And a lot of people want to do business. Actually, Ma'am Gigi, I should bring up pala. It does help, no, na there are so many, we went online na kasi yung company registration process natin, no, the e-Spark. That was part of the initiatives we rolled out, this current commission, committee chair and the others. And because of that, before the pandemic, we were roughly 2,000 incorporations a month. Right now, it also shows us, right, we're patapos na tayo sa pandemic, we're running around 4,000 to 5,000 incorporations a month.
A month?
Kasi mabilis, and at the same time, kasi you can incorporate within minutes na, ha, mabilis ka mag-type, kaya yun. And then, at the same time, this shows very strong interest and very strong optimism in our economy as a whole. No? Kasi there are so many people who want to do business in the Philippines.
Question lang
Apa.
from someone who is, a greenhorn. Anong pinag-iba yung the name of the company na merong corporation, tapos merong company na merong incorporated?
It's the same. You choose. So essentially, when you create a corporation, for instance, Kelvin Lee, no, Kelvin Lee Corp, you can choose kasi when you incorporate with your articles of incorporation, whether it be Kelvin Lee Corp or Kelvin Lee Inc. So, pili ka one or the other. We have that similar requirement, for instance, sa OPC din. So, di ba, the one-person corporation. So, it has to be Kelvin Lee OPC para matag ka na immediately as a one-person corporation. And we know that you're a one-person corporation. So sa OPC, talagang meron.
Wala pa ako nakikita ganun.
Wala
so
pa
far.
masyado. Kasi the OPCs, they tend to go into smaller businesses because nga the usually smaller scale ang OPC. No, we generally don't allow OPCs for the larger scale. Yung mga may public interest na businesses, for instance.
Family businesses.
Yeah, smaller family business, yes, can use the OPC usually. That's where that usually goes, no, as a general rule. So there is
Pero
that
so
aspect
far
of it.
have, certain number of corporations under the OPC registered already with SEC.
Yeah.
Meron na din.
Last count ko, admitted I haven't checked this year, no, but earlier this year when I was looking at the 2022 numbers, we had around 3,000 OPCs na yata eh. So which is not bad na rin. No?
Since last year?
Since the creation, since we allowed it. No? So I'm sure the numbers have gone up even more since then kasi don't forget when we rolled this out, 2019 yun, and then pumasok ngayong pandemic. So I would foresee na hindi ganun ka there weren't that many people interested in doing business during the pandemic, di ba? At least the initial stages. So medyo tumahimik doon. But as I'm foreseeing that as time goes on, dadami yung OPCs. It's very simple to incorporate. We made it a point, no? We focus so much on ease on doing business kasi
Pero
the
kung
last couple of years.
ano advantage kung tatayo ka ng OPC compared with the single proprietorship?
Yun nga po. We go back to the point na you have limited liability. So meaning, kung
Yun
yung sorry being lawyerly na naman. pero yun kasi talaga ang point, no, na when you use a corporation, separate, yes, exactly. You treat the corporation as a separate person. So whatever, a separate entity, separate person. So kung may mga liabilities, may mga issues, papasok po sa kanya, not to you, to the person. If ever, limited yung exposure niya to the investment lang niya. Parang ganun yung template natin yan. And why is it easier and better to do OPC now? Well, don't forget nga, I emphasize the point, in the past, if you're gonna do business, tas mag-isa ka lang, usually ang avenue mo, single proprietorship lang. Kasi yun lang ang pwede na isa eh. Now, with the OPC, pwede ka na mag-isa, create your own corporation. Siyempre, you follow our requirements, no, as provided by law, but it makes it certainly much easier na.
Okay. So,
Yan.
speaking of, eto,
Kasi gusto ko din itanong tungkol naman sa insider trading, parang doon may
Yun. Okay. Yeah. Sige, shoot.
Kasi ang daming instances na nirereklamo ang listed company na ganun nga may insider trading. Parang naging ordinary yung ano na lang sa process na lang sa ano eh. Sa PSE.
Well, insider trading is something to be alleged and something to be proven. No? So and we are aware of some of the allegations, and siguro without going into names kasi most of them are live, no. There are certain companies we are looking at, we are investigating. Some of our departments, our enforcement department and our market securities regulation department, are looking at a number of companies that looks like they're being flagged. No? Pero I cannot announce lang, nor can I describe it pa kasi nga we're in the middle of it, no. So I'll let's let our investigators have time to go through the process, and then we'll see from there. But certainly siguro I can assure the public we are aware of some of these instances. We are looking at it, no, and we are investigating.
Yara may suspicion na insider trading. Is that a reason to suspend the trading of a share?
Siguro the suspension of trading I will defer to PSE. No, kasi the usually the setup and the suspension of particular publicly listed PLCs, no, is with the PSE. So I'll defer to them, to sila Mon, sila Ruel, sila Sir Ruel, no, so Mon Monson and Ruel Refran, no, the CEO and COO of PSE respectively, both of whom we speak fairly regularly. No, they are. I actually laud them for their vigilance. Medyo mabilis din po sila. No? You'll notice mabilis sila when it comes to the suspension side, just to make sure nga. At the end of the day kasi we need to make sure of investor protection. Yun naman talaga primary mandates namin dalawa. We have to make sure na as much as possible, walang ma-prejudice na investors. No? As much as possible. I emphasize the point, as much as possible. No one's perfect.
So, speaking of PSE, ano yung relationship ng SEC and PSE? And what are the requirements? What does it take? I mean, for someone for a company, a corporation to be listed sa PSE.
That's fairly complicated. Siguro I'll simplify it lang for the purposes of this discussion. No? So essentially, SEC is the regulator, and all the powers in relation to the securities market emanates from the Securities Regulation Code and is vested in the SEC. And then we are the ones that give authority to particular entities like the PSE. It is a SRO, no, a self-regulatory organization, to operate on its own based on our authority that we gave them. Parang ganun yung setup. So they are SROs. There are other SROs actually out there, no, CMIC, no, Capital Market Integrity Corporation, among others, that is connected to the PSE as well. So as a result of which, in effect, we are the regulator of PSE din, no? But they have a certain amount of independence. Syempre, that's the whole point of a self-regulatory organization in how they treat and regulate their constituents naman. Ano yung constituents nila? The different 200 plus, almost 300 publicly listed companies that are listed on the market. So yun yung focus po nila naman, no? And of course, we regularly liaise, no? Because of the functions. Definitely we have to liaise. To give you an example din of our relationship, any rules that they come up with, the PSE and the PSE board comes up with, has to be approved by us pa. So they submit it to us, we go over it, we make sure it conforms to the Securities Regulation Code, and then we're the ones who decide na kung tuloy or not. More often than not, there's a lot of coordination between our departments. No? So maganda naman yung setup po namin currently. No?
Kunyari naman yung na-flag na mga listed companies, tapos na-suspend. Automatic investigahan ng SEC.
We usually have a parallel investigation, but we try to defer as much as possible to our SRO. Kasi ang setup din po kasi niyan, whatever decisions they have are generally appealable to us. Sorry, by law. Sorry, technical na naman. No? Essentially, kung may decision sila, parang korte yan eh. Kung may decision sila, for instance, delisting, suspending, whatever, no, or mayroon silang enforcement action. As a general rule, those can be appealed to the SEC. So as much as possible, we try to give them some leeway before we dig in. But more often than not, because some of them are live issues, yung mga ganon, usually may parallel investigation, may parallel review yan internally sa amin. We don't typically announce those masyado, because of the sensitive nature nga, no? For instance, I'm not prepared nga to mention names of who we're investigating now, but I am aware of multiple investigations that we're doing now.
Okay. All right. So we're going to take a short break, Commissioner. But when we come back, we're going to ask you about crypto rules. Yeah.
Sige. Sure.
Very.
Yung online search.
E-search.
E-search.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So, mga katribo, we'll have a short break and we'll be back after after some after some advertisements. All right. So, this break is brought to you by Angkas.
Angkas.
Beat the traffic.
Beat the
Mabibit ba ang traffic?
traffic.
Chito? Bayad Center.
Bilis.
Bigger,
Angkas.
better, younger bayad, and you can bayad all.
Bayad all.
And your favorite,
Contis.
Contis Bake Shop and Restaurant, delightfully yours. Globe atin ang mundo. Meralco ang liwanag ng bukas. SM, we've got it all for you.
Always, no?
And then Smart, Live More Today.
And Union Bank, it starts with you.
And of course, we have the Tata Consultancy Services.
A wellness show dedicated to empowering viewers with the knowledge and inspiration needed to lead a healthy lifestyle. Be Well Now, hosted by Miss Cory Crino, every Wednesday at 2 p.m. only here at Daily Tribune's Facebook page and Tribune Now in YouTube. Creative minds, entertainment icons, style influencers. We shine the spotlight on remarkable individuals who shape our cultural landscape. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m. only here in Daily Tribune's Facebook page and Tribune Now in YouTube. Parayan at talakayang showbiz, times 2, doble-doble! Kasama ang dalawa sa walang kupas na talakayan ng showbiz, Alwin Ignacio at Alex Brosas. DTT Show, tuwing Sabado at Linggo, alas 4 ng hapon, dito lang sa Diaryo Tirada ng Daily Tribune. Celebrating the triumphs, challenges, and sacrifices of overseas Filipino workers, our modern-day heroes. Usapang OFW.
So we're back.
All right. So, Chito, about
Yeah.
the fraudulent rules.
About the scams.
Scams.
So,
Okay.
How many? You have said that there are a number of scam companies that you have apprehended or closed.
We've
And there are still a lot, I suppose, that are being investigated.
Correct. Well, siguro to contextualize, no? One of the most famous scams that we shut down, investment scams, is one in Davao.
Davao
If
del
if you're familiar with Kappa, no? That was one of the
Kappa.
first things the chair did, and myself, we did, when I came in 2019 sa commission. Yung Kappa na yan, no? And siguro it goes to show the proactive nature of the commission now as the current composition. Kasi at the time, no one else was flagging Kappa, ha? Kami lang yung nagpa-flag ng Kappa. Si Chair in particular was very focused on that because he knew it was a scam. And we have been borne out by the records. No? Imagine mo, essentially, for those who don't remember this, itong Kappa at the time was a supposed Christian organization, supposedly. No? And they come out now with, from your blessings, your donations, you give monthly donations daw, you give donations daw sa kanila, and then you get 30% blessings every month for life. Parang, that's absurd. No, so essentially, bigay lang ako ng 1,000 pesos. Then I will get 300 pesos. I will get roughly 300 pesos every month for the rest of my life. No, na blessings, which is just impossible na numbers. And yet, from there, they were able to expand to and from what I recall for the corporate for the company records, nakaka-billion sila na nakukuha nila in relation to this. So it's actually very, very scary at the time. And in fact, when we shut it down, we issued kasi advisory and cease and desist orders. Na death threatan kami. That was my first time to receive. Well, I've had death threats before, but this one was the most scary one, to the point na napabodyguard mga commissioners, no? And we generally don't have to because despite the functions, hindi naman, more corporate naman kasi talaga kami, no? So it fit all the requirements itong Kappa, no? Na essentially kasi it's an investment and you don't have to do anything, and then you get nga a return for atrocious amount of return. Imagine mo 30%. No normal investment would even give you 30% per annum. Ito 30% per month for life.
For life.
So siguro the best thing always to remember when you deal with investment scams like that, or when you're not sure kung scam siya o hindi, tingnan mo na lang kung if it's too good to be true. More often than not kasi if it's too good to be true, it's not ano talaga. And this goes back to yung isang theme namin. kung sa company registration, I forgot to mention, no, if it's company registration, we always say it's easy at SEC. Easy na to incorporate with the SEC. When it comes naman to yung mga investment scams, or if you're gonna invest in something, ang palagi namin sinasabi, please do your due diligence. Aralin nyo, no? Check muna. And so with that, on that point, check with SEC. Kasi you can check with us naman eh. You can look through our records, no? Look through our company records, use the eSearch app as needed, and then find out if that company is existing or not. From there, at least you have a better idea kung legitimate or not. You can also check our advisories every week. Or siguro every other week, maybe not every week. Every other week, we usually come out with SEC advisories where we're warning the public na, ito, scam to ito mukhang scam to, ito, may problema to. No? So we make it a point to come out with those regularly because our investigations are very, very active na. Because we want to make sure the public is safe. This goes back to one of our primary mandates, no? Investor protection. We want to make sure that the investing public is kept as safe as we can. Syempre, we can't be everywhere, but we're trying we try to do what we can on that point. So I hope that.
Yeah, you mentioned about your e-search scam. Can you...
Scam, our e-search program. Sorry, our
e-search app. E-search app.
Sorry, not app pala. E-search program. No, it's online with the SEC. So www.sec.gov.ph.
It's not an app.
Not yet. That's something I'm studying pala. So, but we do have an app pala. We have a SEC app the SEC Check app, which we launched last year. Version 2 came out this year. We launched it with the president a few months ago. No? Also part of what we launched is the eSearch app naman. Sorry, eSearch program. The eSearch program, I forget lang what it stands for, but essentially, it's a replacement for iView. So for the lawyers out there who used to get company records to our system called the iView, this is its replacement. No, and it's much more efficient kasi nga you have QR codes, you have PDFs, and it's done online. And then when you get the data, you're able to search through the data very easily. So moving forward, if you want company data, mas madali na po, you go through our eSearch program, which is within our website. There's a certain fee lang kasi syempre, well, it's kind of hard to do these things for free. No? Kasi at the end of the day, we're still a government institution that is self-funding.
Pero maliit lang yung fee.
It's commensurate. It's fair. Ganun na lang. It's fair. Kasi nga, the data is, di ba, they always say naman, Sir Chito, that data is the new oil. No? And this kind of data that we're releasing naman kasi is important for you, if for the public, no, if you want to invest, in particular, yung mga banks, they want to do their due diligence, they're gonna need the data anyway from us. So we strongly encourage na if ever nga, you're going to do any sort of investments, you want to learn about particular companies, use the eSearch app. Check with SEC na po, in other words.
Paano kung yung mga nag-check lang kung legitimate yung mga companies?
Parang that one we have lists. We have lists naman that you can check once again with our website. Yung the eSearch
hindi nakasama dun sa...
iba na. Kasi the eSearch app focuses on giving you the GIS, the General Information Sheet, or
financial...
the audited financial statement. So yung mga technical files na po. But it comes to mga existing lang, you can check it on the website lang din naman. www.sec.gov.ph. No? Nag-pitch ako for the website. No? So please come see our website. Sayang naman, we worked so hard on it.
Balikan ko lang yung fraudulent rules.
Apa.
Kasi I remember like a few months ago, there's this company na involved nga yung, Luis Manzano. So that's an investment, di ba?
Right.
So it was yung complaint.
The fuel.
Yeah, the complaint was filed sa NBI, and then so I suppose it's registered with SEC.
It is without necessarily involving si Mr. Manzano.
Yeah.
We are investigating that. That's actually live. So it's hard for me to comment, no? But rest assured, we are looking at it, no? There are certain issues na rin there. This goes back to my point nga na do your due diligence, no? You can check. Kasi if you looked online and then you saw nga na merong mga NBI naman pala na filed cases, mga investigations, and now you're aware that we're kind of looking at that as well, no? I would not recommend investing in that, certainly. Medyo may issue din. I'm not sure lang if we come up with an advisory pa eh. Baka wala pa. But I do recall we are looking at it.
Okay. So, Chito.
Yeah, for the benefit of those, the public. Kasi bigla na lang may mga lumalabas na mga na napopromote ng certain investments na sinabi mo na if it's too good to be true, it's probably not, no. What other telltale
Telltale signs.
signs na medyo delikado yung pag lumalabas sa mga
If it's not registered. Maraming ganun na hindi registered sa amin. And then suddenly, they come out in the public and then saying random things na talagang, it's a good deal, it's a good Another thing is that they tend to use highfalutin words, highfalutin investments. For instance, about a year ago, before we started shutting them down and started issuing advisories, they would always say na crypto ang basis ng investments namin. That's why we're able to generate so many returns. We use Ethereum, yung mga ganun-ganun. Kumbaga, they're trying to confuse you to show and prove na, kaya namin ma-generate yung returns. That's why we're able to give you the 30% back or whatever
exotic
percent.
sources.
Yeah, that's a good term din. Exotic siya, no? So that's another telltale sign, no? This goes back to my point. Check the fundamentals, check with SEC, do your due diligence. Kasi, syempre, we cannot be there everywhere and we cannot then we do not have the manpower then to advise each and every person who comes to us. We try to, kaya nga may help desk na kami ngayon sa Makati office namin. We also have websites and email addresses and phone calls, but we get so many, it's medyo difficult then for us to be able to advise everyone. So considering that you more often than not malaki yung amount of money ilabas mo for investment, it behooves it's up to you din talaga to do your research, do your due diligence. I emphasize that point talaga. Do your due diligence. Wag pumayag na maloko kayo, and in particular, don't be pressured. Ang palaging kwento sa akin when I meet with some of those who are victims is sometimes when they invest in these things, napapressure daw sila by someone who's a go-between. No, siguro kasi that go-between may percentage siya kung may mapasok. No, so don't be forced to immediately invest in something, especially kung hindi ka sure. Always ask for a day or two. Anyway, if it's a legitimate investment, what's a day or two, di ba? Aralin mo muna. On your end, aralin mo talaga. No, yun ang palagi kong ini-emphasize.
Or consult someone who's
Even better, part of yung studying and the due diligence process is to check with what aside from us, no, you check and consult with people who are experts, lawyers, accountants, successful businessmen who are friends with you, no, yung mga ganon. There are many places you can check these things out. Actually, more often than not, the simplest thing you can do, i-Google mo. Whatever that investment, i-Google mo agad kasi you'll see naman from the initial Google whether legitimate yan or not. You can get a feel agad no, na from what pops up from your search feed.
Yeah.
Kasi lately, may mga sinasabi yung mga sa listed companies nangyayari yung mga questionable deals. Like, may bumili ng certain amount of shares na napakababa compared to the listed price.
I am, without naming names again, no, I am aware of that. We are looking at that. We have a team looking at that.
So you're looking at that.
Yes. Kumbaga, there's a lot of things that are happening that people are not aware that we're looking at. Once again, I cannot, kasi it's a live thing, so we're still determining kung may issue ba talaga or wala. PSE, as I understand, is also looking at it. So siguro wait for whatever announcement na lang whether the PSE or ourselves will make on that. No, I hesitate to kasi I cannot comment on an ongoing case, or an ongoing investigation. I should not actually.
So, doon naman sa mga public listed na mga corporations, how does the SEC ensure yung accuracy ng financial reports?
Jives with the,
Okay. We actually have an audit team. Admittedly, medyo marami din yung mga public listed companies natin, a little less than 300. And each of them has their submission yearly. We have an Office of the General Accountant who does go over the financial statements. We also have an audit team separate from in the markets department namin, which also audits and checks yung mga audited financial statements. Pero try to remember that at the end of the day, this is most securities regulators kasi operate on a full disclosure regulatory regime. Meaning, so long as the data is publicly available, it is the outlook nga of the investor to decide whether to invest or not based on that disclosure. Ang trabaho namin primarily is to make sure the playing field is as fair as possible. So we do conduct audits, but it is Kumbaga, that doesn't mean that the investing public should not also do their due diligence. No? Medyo emphasize ko po yun. The investing public has to do their due diligence din, no? Alongside whatever review we're doing at the SEC.
So, Chit, siguro you could ask yung itong mga investment advisors, yung mga brokers. So, meron din...
Those things also fall.
Yes. Investment advisors in particular, we're coming out with a set of rules in relation to that. No? Kasi nga yung Financial Consumer Protection Act has given us the power to issue the appropriate IRRs, and that's another set of that's another industry that we're looking at regulating investment advisors, because we're not comfortable, very bluntly speaking, we're not very comfortable kasi na we have people who are on TikTok, Instagram, giving investment advice. I think you know who I'm referring to. No? May maraming mga ganun na giving investment advice. We would be more comfortable sana if they are pegged or registered with the SEC. Because that's investment advice. You're not supposed to give investment advice without the appropriate licensure from us, or registration. So that's why we're coming up with a set of rules in relation to that. Kung broker-dealers naman, yung mga securities brokers, the primary regulator for that is the PSE, no? As a self-regulatory organization. But admittedly, kung may mga issues yung mga securities dealers, yung mga brokers nga, they still come back to us. They are still subject to our regulatory scrutiny din po. No? So I hope that kind of clears up the ano lang.
Pero how would you run after one particular investment advisor, for instance, na nasa online naman?
Ang take kasi namin yan, no, our position on that is that if it is an entity or a person giving investment advice in the Philippines in relation to Philippine investments, that falls under our jurisdiction. But siguro wait for the rules lang, may ilalabas kami na separate set of rules in relation to that. No, na focus specifically on investment advisors and how you would register as an investment advisor.
Can you stop them from airing their...
Ayun. So, under...
They should.
Nasa rule
They
ba?
should.
No?
They should. No.
Social media.
Hindi siguro, it wouldn't be in our rules yung shutdown of their website kasi we will defer to the NTC and I think the ICT on that. But on our end, we will summon them, definitely. No, we will treat it like any normal case na isa-summon ka and then they will have to explain why are you giving investment advice without the appropriate licensure. Criminal cases yan, just for the record. That those can be subject to criminal cases, either admin or criminal cases. Kasi it's akin to, it's similar to mag-alok ka ng investment na wala ka namang license for that, no? Or soliciting investments nga wala ngang license. So those are criminal offenses, no? Under the Securities Regulation Code, actually.
It's like, you know, yung mga dentist na
not licensed.
hindi naman licensed and then performing.
Kung ano-anong advice.
So it's not just admin. Admittedly, there will be admin side of it, no? But certainly the there's a criminal side to it as well, no? Criminal violation din po yan. So precisely my point, we don't want kasi these entities, these people to keep doing that na parang tas walang oversight. Bluntly speaking, they would not have any oversight. The chair and the rest of the comms, we're not comfortable with that. No, we want to make sure, this goes back to my point, investor protection. No, we want to make sure that the investing public is protected as much as possible to the extent that we can.
Kasi
Commission. Yung ano, kasi we talked about cryptocurrencies.
yan.
Ano pinag-iba naman dun sa mga coin offerings?
Ganito, cryptocurrencies are ICOs. They used to be called ICOs, no, initial coin offerings. Are technically folded under cryptocurrency. Actually, the terminology nga the preferred terminology at the securities regulator level, we prefer the term digital assets na nga now, no. See, BSP, the central bank, and the other central bankers throughout the world, they prefer the term virtual assets naman. So crypto ICOs is not the term we use very often anymore. Very rarely used. It's a more dated term. The more popular terms nga in regulators is virtual assets, digital assets. But the general public still uses the term cryptocurrency as an all-encompassing term for it. No? So when you talk about cryptocurrency, you're referring to, at least from where we're sitting, digital assets or virtual assets. What are examples of those? Yung mga ano nga, no? Mga Ethereum, Ripple, all these other currencies, quote unquote, or assets that are being peddled within the cryptocurrency scene. So that's how it's set up. And to give you background na lang din, Ma'am Gigie, the BSP has something called the Virtual Asset Service Provider Rules. That's the rules for that allows particular entities, particular platforms or exchanges, cryptocurrency exchanges you might call them, to operate within the Philippines and sell mga cryptocurrencies. Prominent, legitimate examples, and I'm fond of them because at least they're legitimate, is coins.ph and then PDAX, no, the Philippine Digital Asset Exchange. Now those are fairly legitimate, so you can go with them because they're fully licensed. There are other entities that are operating in the Philippines that I'm not comfortable with kasi nga they don't have the appropriate licenses. No? And so where do we come in is that there are the virtual asset service provider rules. Let's focus on the cryptocurrency side of things, the digital, the virtual asset side of things. The SEC will come in and focus on the trading side of it, the securities and investment side of it. No? Without necessarily naming particular cryptocurrencies as investments or securities, there are some admittedly that should be considered as securities, at least from where we look at. And the US SEC has agreed with that perspective. No? We take great guidance from what they do. So we are intending to come out with a set of rules for the digital assets itself and for the exchanges itself later this year. So 2 sets of rules on that. We might possibly combine it into one. Pinag-aaralan pa namin yan internally para a little simpler. But certainly there will be rules that are specific to each category. Yung assets nga ba itself or the exchange or platform itself. No?
So ang ano dyan, at least, itong mga kababayan natin who are, very vulnerable to,
Yes.
to na-persuade sila, na-influence sila, at least if, the SEC has, has this sets of rules.
Siguro in the meantime na lang din, Sir Chito, if I may bring up lang, Ma'am Gigie, is habang wala pa yung rules namin, if our kababayans abroad in particular want to invest in cryptocurrencies, work with licensed ones. Focus ka sa licensed one. Huwag ka magpasok ng any entity na hindi licensed within a particular jurisdiction. Kasi ang mangyayari niyan, kung may problema na, magsabugan na, whatever, then wala kang habol. Prime example of that is this whole FTX scenario. If you're familiar with FTX, it was a cryptocurrency exchange licensed in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean, only licensed there, from what I'm aware of, from what I've been told, and then suddenly crashing. Diba, last year, bagsak eh. That set off the whole crypto winter. So, as a result of which, walang mahahabol ngayon yung mga investors dyan. There's so much money that was lost there. Billions, as I understand it. No? In Singapore, I was in Singapore last year. I was speaking to some of my fellow counterparts there. I was told that the amount of Singaporeans who have lost money from FTX is immeasurable daw eh. Hindi lang pinablik yata eh. No? They kept quiet about it. But certainly, it was horrible. I'm sure meron din here, not as much lang na. No? Kasi nga we have different cryptocurrency exchanges naman here. So, this goes back to my point na stick to those that are regulated, stick to those that are registered. Kasi if you go nga with mga unregistered, ma-FTX kayo. No?
Pero ang bottom line, very volatile pa rin yung currency na yun.
Well, depende which one you focus on. But admittedly, cryptocurrency, digital assets, and virtual assets as a whole is a little bit more volatile than other investments. For instance, if you go with a mutual fund, you go with normal bonds.
Yeah, of course.
Siyempre, those are safer investments. But if you go with something like this, realize that it's high risk. Kasi nga, there are some who argue, yung mga cryptocurrencies, mga digital assets, virtual assets, they're not pegged to a particular asset eh. Walang supporting, what's a polite way to say it? Basta walang support. Ganun na lang. So syempre, you are in a way investing in some people would say nothing, no? I don't necessarily agree with that, but bottom line is be careful, no? There are actually some people who've been telling me na cryptocurrencies are akin to gambling nga. There's one, I had a meeting with the Lord Mayor of London last year, no? Of the City of London. Not the actual city, but City of London, parang Wall Street nila sa London. And we were talking about this. And he was very specific that his perspective nga is that cryptocurrencies, digital assets, virtual assets, since they're in effect parang vaporware, kasi nga daw they're not pegged to anything, his position is akin to gambling. And since it's akin to gambling, it should be the gambling regulator nga daw that should regulate it. So interesting din yung perspective niya. Very smart man, but I disagree with him on that, no? Kasi nga worldwide the direction is the financial regulators supposed to be regulating it. But that gives you an idea, di ba? Na talagang volatile nga itong field na to. So if you're gonna invest in it, be aware na high risk po siya, no? So be ready to high risk, high gain, but high risk, high loss din, ha? Parang ganun.
Okay, so we proceed with our last few questions for the commissioner, but we're going to take a short break. And this is brought to you by, again,
Again, ang CAS.
Beat the Traffic.
Traffic.
Ang CAS. Bawal na sila sa ilalim ng mga flyover.
yes,
if
yes,
it's
yes.
Hindi,
by-
may ano lang, may period.
all right. And then Bayad Center,
Bayad
bigger, better, younger Bayad, and you can Bayad it all.
Right. Contis Bake Shop and Restaurant, Delightfully Yours.
And Atin ng Mundo, Globe. Liwanag
Meralco,
ng
liwanag
bayan, ay ng
ng
bukas. Meralco. And
And
SM, we've got it all for you. Smart, Live More Today, and
Union Bank, it starts with you.
and Tata Consultancy Services.
A wellness show dedicated to empowering viewers with the knowledge and inspiration needed to lead a healthy lifestyle. Be Well Now, hosted by Miss Cory Crino, every Wednesday at 2 p.m. only here at Daily Tribune's Facebook page and Tribune Now in YouTube. Creative minds, entertainment icons, style influencers. We shine the spotlight on remarkable individuals who shape our cultural landscape. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m. only here in Daily Tribune's Facebook page and Tribune Now in YouTube. Parayan at talakayang showbiz times 2, doble-doble. Kasama ang dalawa sa walang kupas na talakayan ng showbiz, Alwin Ignacio at Alex Brosas. DTT Show, tuwing Sabado at Linggo, alas 4 ng hapon. Dito lang sa Diaryo Tirada ng Daily Tribune.
Yeah, we're back, G. I have a question with the advent of the
Digital.
digital banking, e-wallets, and things like that. There are plans to offer international investments like stocks. How would you fit into that? How would the SEC
ganito,
regulate it?
ganito. Under the Securities Regulation Code, no investments, no stocks, no securities can be offered in the Philippines without filing of a registration statement. And I think that's the major hurdle for mga world stocks to come in, yung mga international stocks, to come in and to be offered here in the Philippines. Now, in relation to what do we do about it, kami nga we would be the ones to determine whether or not they can be offered to the public here in the Philippines. Now, on the point of international stocks, world stocks coming into the Philippines, we are studying it. I'm not saying go na yan. I'm not saying ayaw din namin. But certainly it is something we're studying because based on my benchmarking, other countries have done it. South Africa, China, Japan, South Korea, have already allowed their foreign stocks to be sold online in their country. So, but all of them have had separate rules, separate laws that allowed it. So kami, we're studying it lang, how to do it, and if it's doable. Siyempre, may policy considerations pa yan. We would have to check in with other constituents in the market kung viable po ba talaga yan. But certainly, we're not closing the door to that. We are certainly looking at it very seriously. No? I try to be open-minded. I would be very interested in having something like that rolled out in the Philippines. But syempre, subject to legal parameters and policy considerations. No? So I hope that kind of gives you an idea lang where we're at. No? We're not shutting the door. Definitely not shutting the door. Certainly looking at it naman.
It all goes with the advent of digital trading.
Yeah.
Wala nang trading floor.
Actually, the PSE
Everything
recently
is
shut
open.
down their trading floor.
Right,
No? Kasi nga, ginawa nilang event center na lang yata, if I recall correctly.
Correct.
Pero back to the point lang, sir, of the allowing digital investments. Yung GCash currently allows, with our permission, they entered a sandbox a few months back where they're able to sell stocks through their app. No, we allowed that. And there will be another entity, another payment platform coming in, without naming names again kasi hindi pa tapos, coming in with roughly 3 yata, as I understand it, 3 broker dealers that will be working with them as well. So sa GCash there's 1. And I laud nga GCash because they're very, very cutting edge, nauna sila. Now there are others that want to roughly do the same thing. So hopefully we will be able to democratize stock trading within the Philippines. Kasi if you think about it, GCash I think claims to have 40, 50 million users. I'm not sure how many, no, but certain million number of users. So if you get even a fraction of that and then suddenly investing in the market, we would be adding so much needed liquidity into our
Correct,
stock
yeah.
market. What more when the other platforms come in with their own broker-dealers na rin, no, na nakabitbit. So,
I think parang sila yung may chunk ng market.
sorry.
Sila yung, they have the biggest chunk.
Si
Yeah.
Globe,
Globe,
sorry, GCash.
As a financial
I,
service.
I think so. I'm not the direct regulator for that
Yeah,
side,
yeah.
so I don't know na. But certainly, this goes back to the point, no, that the SEC now, as it stands, wants to keep a very open mind to innovation. We're aware kasi naman that there's so much stuff happening in the digital space. So we want to accommodate it. We want to allow as much as we can, as the laws will allow, but always keeping in mind nga investor protection.
Yeah.
Kasi nga, yun ang primary mandate. We want to make sure na hindi nga ma-affected adversely yung mga constituents po natin.
Correct, yes.
Merong so speaking of investor protection, how do you, anong measures ng SEC in terms of fostering investor education and awareness?
Yeah. We have pala, Ma'am Gigie. We have webinars, no, nasa SEC website po nga namin, no, where we tell the public, teach the public, you know, what are the different forms of safe investments, how to incorporate mga among other things. We flag them as well, no, on how to be able to determine kung okay tong investment or not. And we also have an investor protection week that we hold every year, no, in collaboration with other jurisdictions actually, and with our other financial regulators. And we have something called the SEC CAN, no, the Campaign and Advocacy Network. We partner with different institutions, BSP, IC. I understand we also partner with Phoenix, yung Financial Executives Institute, and different other institutions within the Philippines to try to roll out financial literacy programs, nga, no, investor education programs, para the general public will have an opportunity to learn what are the acceptable forms of safe forms of investment. This goes back to my point nga na there's actually a lot of information out there, and then so many institutions like us, BSP, DOF, have been trying to roll out the data and the info to the public. At this stage, I personally feel that we need to encourage the public to pick up on the data, no, to do their own due diligence nga, to aralin din nila. Kasi there's so much up there. There's so much data na out there. There's so many programs na out there. To the point na we're actually looking at least kami, no, we're actually exploring the possibility kung kaya ba isama to sa curriculum, yung financial literacy, investor education, whether the college or the high school curriculum, because mukhang we need to try and embed this into the mindsets of the Filipino populace, no, na how to invest properly. No, mukhang necessary skill set na siya ngayon.
Dapat siya, GE subject na siya. I mean, hindi lang pang, business ad, econ.
Yeah. There is a draft of that actually. With the Secretary of Finance, we came up with a draft of the Capital Market Development Act nga. And part of that Capital Market Development Act, it's pending in the Senate as I understand it, focus on investor education aside. No, na-embed na yung investor education with the hope nga na ipasok yan under the curriculum.
Nasa anong stage na? I mean,
it passed Congress. I understand it's in the Senate. I have to counter check. I don't handle legislative liaison, no, so I'm not that familiar. I just came in on the technical side kasi I had to look at some provisions of that draft. But I know it's in the Senate. No? So hopefully ma-out din yun. No? And then it would form part of the general focus, no, of the
maswerte
country.
yung mga college students who with this GE subject about
if ever they can
investing.
learn.
Kasi tayo, we need daw lang natin. Diba? We need daw lang natin. We don't have that back in college. And, we just listen to advice of friends.
Pero in fairness pala, Ma'am Gigie, Sir Chito, no, you should be aware that kasi I also speak sa mga high schools and mga college na mga consortium, mga groups na on financial and there is a hunger. Na mafe-feel mo na there is a hunger, there's an interest in the general population ngayon ng mga bata na they are very savvy, they're very tech savvy. More often than not, the question na lang sa kanila talaga, saan ba ako mag-invest? Or paano ako mag-invest na safe? No? And I guess it's a question of guiding them to the right place na lang din. No, kasi the interest is there eh.
Yeah. And besides, yung mga nagiging successful, yung mga online, online sellers, online, are into this, especially during the pandemic. Yung inspiration sa kanila yun eh. I mean, it's an inspiration. So, kaya sila naging interested.
Yeah.
So, Commissioner, so we want to have your last words. Maybe we haven't, we missed, asking you about certain questions, but
Yeah.
it was a very interesting discussion.
It's a big market.
Ano ang last words mo to our,
Ah,
to our viewers
to
who
the,
are...
to the viewers. Now, siguro, if with your permission, I just like to remind everyone nga na at the end of the day, the SEC is here to help you, no? Precisely our focus has been on investor protection. I emphasized that multiple times during this discussion. So, kung mag-invest po kayo, if you're going to do any form of investments in any instrument or any security, please check with SEC. No, do your due diligence and check with SEC. Thank you very much.
Tanong ko lang.
Apo.
Available naman. I mean for the viewers who want to check on the website. So it's there naman.
It's there. It's
Very
certainly
easy.
there. No? So it shouldn't be a problem.
Sa website.
Sa website namin, www.sec.gov.ph. Nag-pitch pa ako.
All right. So it has been a very interesting discussion again on Straight Talk.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, mga katribu, and thank you to our guest, Attorney Kelvin Lee, Commissioner of the Securities
We
and
learned a
Exchange
lot
Commission.
about
And
investing.
tune in again next week for another episode of Daily Tribune's Straight Talk. So that's going to be again on Wednesday next week from 10 to 11.
See you
Again,
next
this is
week.
Gigie Arcilla.
And I'm Chito Lozada.
Thank you. Thank you so much.